Welcome to the Career Changers Podcast, the podcast that bridges the gap between your passion for nursing and your dream job with Mainline Health. Whether you're a seasoned nurse looking for that perfect role or a new nurse eager to embark on your professional journey, our show is your compass in the world of nursing careers at Mainline Health. We will guide you through job opportunities, insider insights, and inspiring stories. Join us as we explore diverse nursing avenues and help you find your path. Get ready to make the career leap. My name is Connie Samuelevich, a Senior Talent Acquisition Partner with Mainline Health. Today we're going to explore the career journey of as supervisor at Lankenau Medical Center. My guest today is Tamika. She is a nursing supervisor coordinator with Lankenau Medical Center. Hi, Tamika. How are you today?
Hi, Connie. I'm fine, thanks. How are you today?
Well, thanks so much for joining me today. I know you began your career at Mainline Health. I hired you first in another department, and you have grown your career throughout our organization. So that's one of the things we're going to talk about today.
Okay.
So let's get started with your journey as a nurse. So what got you into nursing?
Let's see. What got me into nursing? The fascination with babies. So initially, I wasn't a nurse. Nursing is actually my second career, believe it or not. My first career was in finance. I know a lot of people will look at me and say, "What? You're in where?" And so I started out, actually, I have a degree in finance and investment and a minor in international business. And so the journey started there. I was in my final year of school with my finance degree, and I really was dissatisfied with what I was doing. I didn't gain any fulfillment from it. I didn't love it. I could just do it. It was something that I did, and I did well. And in talking to an aunt that I have, we were kind of just going over some stuff, and I wanted to change my life, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And she happened to mention her sister, who was a midwife. And I want to say, Connie, that was my aha moment, where it had not been, I don't know why I didn't think of it before, but it really kind of sparked something within me. And I kind of started questioning her about it and her sister's journey. And after that conversation, I thought about it a little more. I don't make these decisions lightly. And so went through, got my degree in finance, worked in advertising. I actually worked in advertising, and I did it for a year, and I felt like I was like slowly dying inside. And that's when I made the decision to jump into nursing.
But that's so great that you had an opportunity to really step back and think and talk to somebody and to, look at what you liked and what you didn't like and realize, yeah, I can do this job, but it's not going to be my passion.
Yeah.
So it's great that you had that opportunity and you had those resources to look at and talk to them about it. So you felt a little bit more comfortable with making that decision.
Absolutely. I am so glad that I was able to reflect on what was going on and to realize that, you know what, this is not necessarily what I want to do, but to also take the time to make the decision to find out what I wanted, and never regretted that decision. I've been a nurse now for 18 years, and it's one of the best decisions I've ever made. I would do it all over again. Yes, I would even do the finance courses again, because having gone through that led me to this. And so, yeah.
So when you look back and you were in school, and I'm sure you've crossed paths with many people that have made nursing their second career, have you found such a kind of switch from finance to nursing? Have you found that other people have traveled a similar journey to you, or do you think it's more individualized to a few select people?
No, I feel that there are quite a number of people that made the switch. Some in business, some not. Some made the switch from another science to nursing.
Well, that's great. It's so refreshing to hear that you made a decision for yourself personally, yet you have made the transfer over to a new career, and now obviously are using that same knowledge. As you said, knowledge is power. Whether you're using it in one way or another,
Yeah.
it's still helpful to you and your career.
Yeah.
So, talk a little bit about getting into your nursing career journey.
So after I became a nurse, I worked in New York City, and I was first a med surg nurse, and then my real passion was labor and delivery. The reason why I did it that way was actually on the advice of one of my clinical instructors, who said that a lot of pregnant women are coming in with all these comorbidities. They're coming in sick, and you will benefit from having a background not in OB, so that when you look at the clinical picture, you can see the entire clinical picture and not just the obstetric issue. I best advice I ever got, one of, actually. And so I started out there in med surg, went into OB. I was an OB nurse for, I would say, about 7 years. 6 years in, my family and I moved to Pennsylvania. That's where I met you, actually. You
Yes.
gave me the call one day as I was going in for my night shift to say, hey, you applied for an OB position at Lankenau, and you screened me. And I said, yes, I'm interested. And we set up an interview. So I worked as a labor and delivery nurse at Lankenau for about a year and a half, almost a year and a half, before going into being a nursing supervisor. And it's kind of funny, actually, how I got into it, because I had precepted, I was charge nurse, so I had all these leadership positions within labor and delivery. And I kind of started looking at other positions outside of Lankenau. And I was very upfront with my manager, actually. And I said, hey, I'm looking at other things. I don't know. I think I want to do leadership. And she suggested that I look at being a nursing supervisor. I got hired. And that's when I got like really apprehensive. It's not just, the process of getting hired is, okay, now you got the role. What are you going to do? So
Absolutely.
it was daunting, but my partner, the person who precepted me, and we eventually started working together, and we worked together for about 6 years, because I've been a supervisor now for 9 years, and I've been the coordinator for a year. The person who precepted me was amazing. She was so kind. She was so awesome. And she made it known what she lacked was the knowledge of OB. What I lacked was the knowledge of critical care.
So a perfect pair,
Perfect
right?
pair. And I would ask her all these questions. So in precepting me, she was very thorough. She was very patient. And I will say that that went a long way in helping me lay the groundwork to be a good supervisor overall. And one thing I want to say is that critical thinking is critical thinking. It doesn't matter what area of nursing you come from. It applies across the board. So a patient is a patient is a patient. A situation is the same thing. And so I will say that stood me in good stead. Critical thinking that you develop, in wherever you are.
So, Tamika, you brought up so many good points. One of the point I want to go back to is, making when you got into nursing and taking that first year to be in med surg or in telemetry and not getting right into a specialty, because so many students in school want to be an OB nurse, or they want to be a critical care nurse, or they want to be in a specialty right off the bat. And I think you bring up a good point that the knowledge that you gained in that first year was so helpful as you move through your career. So take me back to that moment when you had to make that decision, and what advice would you give to a newer nurse coming out of school hoping to get into a specialty, and not everyone can get into that specialty. So what words of advice could you give to that person in their career journey?
No knowledge is ever wasted. No knowledge. And I would say that it is critical to learn the nuts and bolts before you jump into the area that you're truly passionate about. It makes sense because in my example, I not only learned about medical issues, I learned about wound care, I've learned about, heart failure, which are all things that I've actually encountered in OB. I've learned about, diabetes and all these issues that hypertension that women have today. And they're coming in with this prior to pregnancy. So it's not necessarily pregnancy induced, which is its own animal. But this is a pre-existing condition, psych conditions. We have so many people with that are on psych meds that you need to know what you're doing and how to manage appropriately. And it is critical to lay that foundation, because when you do lay that foundation, then you can put the pieces together and see the whole picture.
Yes, I agree. I've heard from managers, and I know Lisa probably said this to you in the past, but managers have staff that go right into a specialty, and some people are very successful with that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But sometimes when they have a patient that has multiple medical concerns or issues coming in, they look out for that nurse who had spent a couple years in critical care or had spent a couple years in med surg, to say, hey, can you help me look at this patient, make sure I'm not forgetting something or overlooking something? So, the team appreciates that knowledge you bring to the table when you get to the department. The other thing you mentioned in your journey to your current role is really that pivotal conversation you had with your nurse manager when you liked your job and it was fine and there was no problem, but you felt like you wanted more. And, if you hadn't said that to your manager, you might not be in the job that you're in today, because she actually kind of said, why don't you consider this? So, a lot of people don't feel comfortable in speaking with their managers. And, from an HR perspective, I always say to people, talk to your manager. They know you best. They can help you come up with ideas and career paths and ideas for you that will make you happy because they see you work. But not everyone feels that way. So tell me about your conversation. Did you feel comfortable in talking to your manager? And what advice would you have to somebody who isn't quite there with their manager just yet with the comfort level?
You also have your assistant nurse manager. There is a leadership team in place that you work with every day, that you should feel comfortable enough to have that conversation. Where I came from, the relationship that I had with my manager, it was in flux. It was in flux. And coming to Mainline Health, the culture here is geared towards being open, being transparent, and cultivating the relationship with your staff that they feel comfortable coming to you. I work with lots of managers, and I can see the back end of it, the effort that they put into being there for their staff members and listening to them. And so I would say that I'm glad that Mainline Health has that culture.
But tell me a little bit about how you built your team around you so that you could make an impact on every department as a supervisor.
It comes down to relationships. It does. So when I started out, I walked around with a little notebook. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know a lot of information that was out there. And what I would start doing is I'd go up to people and introduce myself to the charge nurse. Initially, during when I was on orientation, my partner would say, "Hey, this is Tamika. She's a new supervisor. Her background is OB," and she'd start that way. But she's here and she's with us. She joined us, and so having that introduction, But then after orientation, forming relationships, talking to people, hey, how are you doing? How's the floor going? And when they would refer to a term, a device, there are times when I'd write it down and then I would turn around, when I'm in the office and Google it, look and research and see, okay, what is this procedure? What is this device? I would ask, I cultivated a relationship with the nurse educators as well, because if there was a clinical question that I wasn't quite sure of, I would reach out to my nurse education partners, or I would speak to the charge nurse and ask questions. And I'd say, hey, I'm not familiar with this. Can you walk me through it? And they're more than happy to help.
Oh, well, I'm so glad. I'm so glad it has worked out for you. And I wish you the best and continued success at Mainline Health. And, I'm only a phone call away.
Thank you, Connie. I appreciate it.
All right. Well, it's great to talk to you today.
It's great talking to you too.
You have been listening to the Career Changers podcast. Moderators include Nicolette Biscani, Abigail Metzler, Tracy Peterson, Cheryl Moldy, and Connie Samulevich. Music is by CapCut. Our executive producer is Christina Archer. Our technical support is Paul Fort. Thank you for listening. We hope you join us for our next Career Changers podcast.